The following Defending Our America episode is presented without commercial interruption by Sig Sauer.
You take a cop on the street in any city in America, and he'll be able to point out the drug houses, point out 100 gang members' houses, where they're living, where their girlfriends, where their babies' mamas are. They'll know all the criminals.
We watch them all day long. We stop them. We lock them up for disorderly conduct stuff, but they get out. And it's not until something interesting happens, a shooting happens, a series of shootings happened, or they go to shoot somebody and they get somebody else, that we get to put the full attention on it, and we stop everything else in town and dedicate all our efforts to this.
If you look at the gangs that occupy all our streets at the area where I work, if all these gangs came together, we have over 65 operating gangs in 6.5 square miles in our town. If we said, hey, you know what? We consider you domestic terrorists. There are repercussions. We are gonna use them. You have the mental choice to do it. If you do it, shit's gonna be bad and it's gonna be ugly.
When I was working gang stuff, they would tell us in interviews that they're not concerned with the court system. They're more concerned with having to deal with the cop on the corner or getting knocked out by a cop or something than they are the court system, because they know that it's gonna be a slap on the wrist. Even if they go do time, they're gonna do good time and be able to walk out, and it gives them street credit.
Down in my area where I work, we have essentially an insurgency of Mexican cartels. And I told you guys before that the cartels have pretty much taken over our area. We have a real insurgency down there, and they're narcotics traffickers, but just by the definition of what they do and how they do it, they're terrorists. You know, as law enforcement, we have totally different rules that we're playing by than military. We have narco-terrorists on US soil, and we have law enforcement trying to deal with that in a law enforcement way, and it doesn't work.
We're telling the cops, you can't ask somebody if they're illegally here. So you got a guy you suspect of being an MS-13 member, and he's here from a Central American country. He came in here illegally, and he's only here as a gang member. He's only here to commit crime. He's not here feeding a family or doing anything that would be honorable. And yet, you can't even ask him, you can't question him, you can't do anything to get him off that street corner from doing what he's doing. The cops' hands are not only tied behind their backs, but they're handcuffed to their feet. I mean, it's ridiculous what we're doing.
That's where the problem is a phone book full of lawyers that are standing in line waiting for the opportunity to defend some poor, downtrodden citizen against the brutality of the police who have been out there enforcing the laws unfairly and oppressing them.
I know a little bit about that.
Okay? That's where a big part of the problem is.
Yep. Really, the main way that I really got to these guys, and I hate to say it, we had to kind of Al Capone them. We had to kind of lock them up for disorderly conduct and drinking in public, motor vehicle violations, and we had to stack enough of those against them. And what generally happened when you picked on them for those little rules, which they called harassment, if you got them up for all this little stuff, that was usually at the times where they were knee-deep in drug activity, or you get lucky and you catch a guy with a stash in his pocket. For the most part, you had to wait 2 years for that to go to trial. So for those 2 years, you're still coming out here and encountering these guys over and over and over again. It took a solid 2 or 3 years for all these cases to stack up to get 1 or 2 drug dealers to disappear for a couple of years.
Who cares if they go to trial? Send them out.
They have constitutional rights, but if they're not citizens...
You cannot take it away because you think they're a bad guy. And guess what? If you're a U.S. citizen, you're innocent until proven guilty. We will absolutely bring those lawyers that you hate to bear here, because you're a U.S. citizen and you deserve to be treated like that.
That's the cool thing about being American. You know, in other countries, if you're accused of something or if you're on the wrong side of the police, it is what it is. You know, I mean, we're in a country where we're all expected to have the same amount of rights, and we kind of have to work by that.
There's value to being a citizen. There's a value to it. When you're an American, you are treated a certain way by other Americans. And if you're not, then you're not. It means something to be part of our tribe.
Next time on Defending Our America.
Anyone who wants to win a war, your morals will sink to the level of your enemy's morals if you want to win. You can't have this higher standard and expect to dominate.
I'll disagree. It's not your morals, it's your tactics. We do have to keep in mind, and my generation learned this the hard way with a little village named My Lai in Vietnam, and you've all heard of that, I'm sure. So there has to be some rules of engagement to control and keep something like that from happening again.